Hi, I'm Drew Hutchison, and you're tuned to Local Bias. We come to you from the studios of Greenfield Community Television at 393 Main Street, and my forever guest is on again. I'm talking about Karl Meyer. Karl, we ought to call this the Karl Meyer Show. You're on so often.
Let's call it the Dirty River Show.
The Dirty River Show.
Let's get down to it.
Is the Connecticut River dirty?
Thank you. The Connecticut River, I mean, that's the one thing that we keep going back to is it's cleaner than it used to be. The Clean Water Act of 1973 was, sort of did something, but we're not even meeting clean water standards here in Massachusetts. So
we're not. So it didn't get cleaned.
Oh, but every time you need to drag out, it's so much better. We've been saying the same thing for 50 years, but right here in Franklin County, let's do this. We did this last time.
Okay,
right?
I'll hold this up.
This is our little functional thing. This is Connecticut River, Franklin County, Mass. This is we're talking about the Franklin County Industrial Park right here. This is the Connecticut River.
And that's by the way, that's the tech school.
That's right. This tech school. You can see the ball fields. The airport's over here somewhere. This is the Connecticut River, that Northfield Mountain. This attaches to this over here. This is about 2.5 miles of the Connecticut River in Franklin County, sucked backwards by the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Station, which would be something like up this way. So this is a river that does not meet even the basic, the standard definition of a river, no less the Clean Water Act, the physical properties, the biological properties of a living river. So that's what we're here to talk about once again, Drew.
Okay, and actually there is some news going on because the river is not flowing backwards at this moment.
There is lots going on. You know what? What we just talked about, it's not getting pulled backwards. Day in, day out, it is not getting sucked backwards. There's not 15,000 cubic feet per second of water and all the aquatic life in it going up this tube, this mile-long tube, through the powerhouse in Northfield Mountain up to the 5.6 million gallon giant reservoir hacked out of that mountain. Northfield Mountain is closed, folks. Northfield Mountain will be shut down for, we don't know, several months right now. Drew, I took a walk up there yesterday. This is the ground truth show of the Connecticut River.
And they didn't chase you off.
And I get up there, and it's their walking trails. This is their big public, thing. We have ski trails. You can ride your bike up there. They don't really want people to know that they're not doing anything, right? But there's wonderful things happening. When Northfield Mountain is shut, right, they're having to clean out this mega load of silt and detritus and dead fish and stuff that gets sucked into there. When I look at it, they're actually doing dredging up there, but Northfield Mountain itself is actually a dredging operation. Let's face it. If you suck fish and you suck the eroded soils from the riverbanks that are going up and down at 15,000 cubic feet per second, as we explained, that's the equivalent of the aquatic life in average 3-bedroom homes per second.
It's hard to comprehend.
Out of the river, right? For hours on end, it amounts to something like 3,600 houses filled with aquatic life going up there. We're talking about, let me see, there was one estimate, 10,000 fish eggs, a loss of 1 million juvenile shad from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, while First Light, owned by Canadian venture capital, public sector pension investments, $240 billion organization. Their estimate was, we lose just 2,000 some odd juvenile shad. There are millions and millions of fish, hundreds of millions that get sucked up that thing every year and never return. A round trip is guaranteed survival. There's no expectation of going up there, even if a few eggs come out, and there are fish in that reservoir. You know how you can tell? Because on this couple of pools in this giant, there's 275 acres of empty reservoir up there right now, right? Big, massive hole in the ground, right? Well, who's sitting there on a couple of really big puddles up there? There were 5 immature bald eagles hanging around because,
there's food for them.
So if a few eggs get by, you can breed there, but you're never making it back down. So everything that goes up that chute, that ugliest chute on the Connecticut River, there's no hope for it ever reaching a functional organism within the ecosystem. So, what else is happening when Northfield is shut down? Well, first of all, the river isn't running backwards as it does for 3+ miles. We don't really know how far that extends. They only had to check for so much. It's also not being pushed backwards upstream from Northfield itself at 20,000 when they dump the water out of that mega toilet, right? It's basically an electric toilet that's run off the power grid, which is 60% natural gas. It's a gas plant. But the other thing that people need to understand is that is a major waste and a major hit on climate change, right? Is if you're going to
and yet they bill it as being environmentally friendly.
Right, you're going to turn a river on its head. But just in doing that, 34% of that energy is just gone. It's just wasted before they turn around and ever regenerate anything and send it out for export or whatever they want to do as ISO New England's sort of favorite insurance policy. I mean, that's really this thing functions as. We don't need it every day. And folks, Northfield isn't running. Is the sky falling? Northfield will not be running for the next 2 or 3 months. Drew, what'd you cook over? A fire this morning?
I rubbed some sticks together
and or whatever. You know, so I mean, so fish aren't being annihilated. The crushing daily tides up and down, 4 and 5 feet every day at Turner's Falls Dam, up to 9 feet.
Was it the Bay of Fundy?
You know, this is the ugliest 23 miles of river in all of New England, right? On what it's called. It's called an American Heritage River, a National Blueway, the centerpiece of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Center's Silvio Conti National Fish and Wildlife Refuge. And they all signed an agreement, all these, you know, Fish and Wildlife, National Marine Fisheries, Mass Division of Fisheries, what I'm calling now the indefensible agreement for the next 50 years to let this river be sucked backwards, all those 25, 26 species.
So we have people that work for the Fisheries Department, for all these different agencies.
Yeah.
A lot of them live locally.
Some, yep.
They must be cognizant of what's going on with the river.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand why they're not trying to save the river.
Drew, they failed. I mean, essentially, our agencies have failed us. I mean, we've had 50 years of a river that has just been preyed upon by a private company, right? And it's passed through the hands of, I think, 4 or 5 different companies until public sector pension investments came in 2016. I think they came in March. Within 2 years, they had re-registered it as a Delaware, all these assets into a Delaware limited liability company, basically a tax holding, right? They ran out on all their taxes, right? And public sector pension, $240 billion, global investment firm. Their tax strategy, and this is what they say on their website even, our global tax strategy for investments is to pay as little taxes as is legally required.
Well, and corporations have a bottom line to take care of their shareholders.
Right.
Which is one of the problems we have with corporations in this country. There should be a second bottom line, and that is the public good. And
I would reverse those two. The public good comes first.
Okay, but I mean, it should be part of every corporate charter. But right now, you can't blame a corporation for actually following what by law it has to do, which is maximize profits for the shareholders.
Oh, I can blame them, Drew. I have no problem blaming them. This is actually
it's immoral.
Public sector pension investments funds the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who else? Teachers in Canada, the military in Canada. This is actually the part of the Canadian government.
Right.
Okay, they are part of the Treasury Board of Canada. And you know they have business as far away as Australia. They come here and run our river. The license expired on April 30th, 2018, right? They came here 2 years before, knowing full well we were in the middle of relicensing, right? I'm a stakeholder, intervener. I've been Fish and Aquatic Studies team with all the agencies, U.S. Fish, National Marine, Mass Division. They came, and just before we went on government shutdown, right?
The last one.
Right, the last big one, which was 2018, December 21st. while the government was shut down, they turned around and re-registered all these assets in New England, most of them in Massachusetts, right? The big ones in Massachusetts. Didn't tell anybody and re-registered them in Delaware. I intervened at that point and actually got a hearing in Washington because they just were not meeting their requirement to run the river as they initially said. The licenses for Turner's Falls and Northfield Mountain the proposal was they were going to be a single license, and they turned around and broke up all their assets so that they could save money and run our river differently and make as much money as possible, right? So here we are, almost 5.5 years after
and
that.
Still no agreement.
After that FERC license.
But I thought the agreement was going in their favor anyway. Why wouldn't they rush to get it done in their favor?
True, they win either way, but let's have a little celebration here, folks, because we are in day 1,975 post-license expiration. FERC doesn't make them do anything. They run the show. They ask for extension of time after extension of time. They finally beat the heck out of our agencies who just gave up the ghost, right? They're relicensing a river that runs backwards. They are the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They are the National Marine Fisheries Service. They are the Massachusetts Division of Fish and Wildlife.
Right, so could they not say, no, this is not right. Rivers are not supposed to go backwards. This is causing environmental harm. This is harming all the stakeholders, not the shareholders, the stakeholders, the people that live by the Connecticut River.
But they didn't, Drew.
That's what I want to know. Why not?
Because they threw in the towel. They threw in the towel. They didn't want to go up against them. That's my only theory. They just got beat, right? They got shoved into a corner, and they folded up their tent because it was taking so long. Here's a little bit of what they signed. This was signed by. Let me give you the signatory people. Well, Justin Trudell was First Light's person. Audrey Mayer, I think she's active. Region 5, the whole 13-state region, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Michael Pentony, National Marine Fisheries, he's over in Gloucester, right? He's director there. Mark Teza, Mass Division of Fish and Wildlife, never stood up for the Connecticut River. The Mass Fish and Wildlife does a great job of mass producing trout and dumping them into the rivers every spring, and that's about what I think about them. And of course, the Nature Conservancy, who never goes to court anyway. That was Deb Markowitz. But here's what they signed. Let me just show you one thing. Support, they did this thing, it's just the throw in the towel clause. Basically, here's what they signed. Support for implementation, right? They became basically the stable kid for First Light. Upon notification by First Light of the need thereof, the other parties shall provide written communications or orally in the event written communications is impossible to obtain due to reasons outside party control, that's in parentheses, of support in any administrative approval process that may be required for implementation of this settlement agreement or related articles of the new project licenses, subject to available party resources and regulatory party authority. Basically, it says, when we say you support this in front of FERC, in front of ISO, in front of a court, you go. We say go, you go.
Why would they ever agree to something like that?
Oh, Drew, I have no. It does sort of beg the question of are these public agencies? Are they on our side or not? Here's what they have about this whole. There's a whole thing about the Clean Water Act, and I'm an intervener, right? Because you absolutely cannot authorize a license that sucks a river backwards and basically takes away all of its physical, chemical, and biological.
But they've done
attributes.
it before.
But they have done it before. But Drew, this is in my piece here. This is why I'm looking for a lawyer to pop up after this show and back me up here. This thing wasn't licensed until 1973. They flooded the plant. It was supposed to come online in 1972. The whole powerhouse flooded. A person was killed during the power. It took them until 1973 for this thing ever to come online, in which case the Clean Water Act was already had been implemented by Congress. So this thing has failed the Clean Water Act since the day it came on. It was never legal, right? And you hear a lot of stuff from the Watershed Council, the Conservancy. We're gonna go after the 401 Water Quality Certificate, which is the state's version of the Clean Water Act. Every state has some tweaked version. But here you have these major agencies, right? U.S. Fish, National Marine Fisheries. Andrew Titler, the Department of Interior's big lawyer, signed off on all this crap, saying we're going to go and we're going to support what we agreed to, even when it comes to the Clean Water Act. That's written into this contract. I do not know how you do that, right? So the Watershed Council or the Conservancy is saying, well, we'll wait until FERC gets to the Clean Water Act. It's done in here, right? The big guys have already spoken. John Howard, who's a vice president up at Northfield Mountain, he used to be my boss when I worked there, right? Used to be station manager. I don't know what his full title is, but he's a vice president now of First Light. He wrote an op-ed in April or May saying, oh, the public will have plenty of time to hash this out when we talk about the 401 Water Quality Certificate. Well, we have a First Light vice president saying, no problem, don't worry, it'll be fair when you do this. You know that they're sitting comfortable and pretty.
Is there any way we can have some of these people come on TV and actually answer their questions? Because it doesn't make sense to me, but not everything makes sense to me. So maybe I'm just missing something.
I would love to, I'd love to ask these people to come on. Maybe I'll put something together and get it in front of you.
Because I'll produce a show. If they want to come on GCTV, if they want to come to GCTV and be asked questions and have an opportunity to explain to people, because I'm sure they don't think that they're doing anything wrong. Let's hear what they have to say.
Drew, they've promised to defend this for a private company. So get out here and defend it in front of the public.
Right.
That's the bottom line here. I have a couple of sort of sideline things, but this is all ground truthing, right? Northfield is down. Northfield is shut. There is just a desert out there, big puddles. So I walked up there. It's kind of an ugly forest. There's lots of dead hemlock and stuff. It's not a pretty walk up there. I did see a nice wren and a golden crowned kinglet, and I heard a couple of ravens. But so anyway, so I had to ground truth that, right? Nothing in the reservoir. There's stuff going on. They have tons. I mean, we're talking about 35,000 cubic yards of sand that they're going to try to get through without mucking it up, because they did in 2010, and they were offline for 6 months because I ratted
And the short-nosed sturgeon had a good year that.
I ratted them out. I ratted them out in the Gazette, right? I went up there and took a picture, and Larry Parnas published a picture, and all of a sudden, we had 6 months, and fish passage at Turner's Falls Dam without the up and down, without the sucking backwards and forwards, went up 800% above the last year, above 20.
So they tracked it. There's actual
right?
data.
And for that decade, it was 600% above all the decades. So it went up from like 2,000 some odd fish a year to 16,000, right? And the next year, they knew that they were getting ready to do contract negotiations. So funny thing, it never went back to the 2000s after that year when they were exposed in the news. When they were exposed, like, oh, Northfield's down, and by the way, 600% without your input. Other things that are going on in the river, and this pertains to places where you lived and where around here where I live, Franklin County, right? Mm-hmm. Article in today's Recorder, as a matter of fact. We're talking on the 27th of September. Company hired to fix Montague City Road flooding issues. $326,000 contract is being, and you know Montague City Road where it floods?
Oh yeah, I drive by there almost every day.
Well, interestingly enough, there's been a lot of work on the Turners Falls Power Canal, right? Mm-hmm. And on the left side of the Power Canal is a dike work, right? And the dike work is actually kind of leaky. And what has happened in the last few years is First Light and Eversource. They cut those new big, they call them monopoles, the big utility poles through there. They cut down a lot of trees, and there's a lot of trenching going along there, right? Because they've had leaky dike system, right? So they cut the trenches, but you know where the trenches lead? They head out towards Montague City Road. And you know what's on the other side of Montague City Road, aside from the swampy area, is the original power canal. That's where the original power canal is. So, you know, you start to think, well, if you got a leaky canal and a whole leaky dike work, and you've seen, if you go on the bike path there, you see all that trenching there. They had to sink a couple of wells to find out where it's going. That water is heading straight over through there, and it's pumped into the other side of Montague City Road, which kind of makes me think, when I look through all this stuff, and I have some of this stuff down there. Let me see, outage states, that's not it. Let me be able to find this. Oh, canal. Here's a Federal Energy Regulatory Commission saying the PCLD, which is the Power Canal Left Dike power structure status, is currently under remediation to install the filter diaphragm and berm due to the history of excessive seepage and elevated piezometer levels along portions of the dike. If I was the city of Montague, I might not be sort of spending the public's money without first investigating a little bit more why all of a sudden we have this. I mean, there are heavy rains, but Northfield Mountain, when it dumps, it also dumps a second peak of energy through that canal, right? So that canal is getting pushed, but there is water pressure going over that side.
Right.
And all of a sudden you have this up and down. So there's that piece. There's another piece that's on Millers Falls Road. Remember Millers Falls Road? It washed out just 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And I sort of called it out and said, oh, by the way, Northfield sends down these 20,000 cubic feet per second big pushes of water. And it gets to this section where the big plunge was, where they lost. And that's called the Narrows, right? And that water goes right into there and banks up at the edge of there. And they're actually thinking about having to put more money into this. Now, who pays for that? Well, the citizens of Montague. And then there's one more big one. I love this one, Drew. If you look at the Turners Falls Dam, there are 2 dams there. Right? You go on the Unity Park side from the rail trail. And there's a Turners Falls side. There are 4 what are called bascule gates. And there are 3 what are called tainter gates on the other side. There's a gill side of the dam, and there's a little sort of island in the middle.
Right.
When there's big floods, and we had big floodwaters in the spring here, how they bulk regulate the river during flood things, when you get up around 40, 50, the river got up to almost 100,000 cubic feet per second sometime in June, I believe. Where they regulate it is they send that water through the gill side of that dam. Right? This came from John Howard. I asked him this question, my old boss, at one of the early FERC meetings. Well, we bulk regulate the Connecticut River by opening those tainter gates. And if you ever see some of the real sort of crushing, cool, flows on the river people take pictures of, they take it on that side.
Right.
And obliquely, what direction does that water go into? It goes right against the bank where Route 2 collapsed.
Right, exactly.
And you see all those giant trees and logs, they get caught in a whirlpool there, and they beat. That's costing Massachusetts taxpayers and federal taxpayers right now millions of dollars.
Well, it seems to me you've already kind of provided an answer to the leverage needed to deal with this problem. Do local taxpayers want to have to be paying for all of this so that shareholders in Canada can be wealthy? Can't the town can't Montague actually, the town administrator, say, well, hold on a second now. This is costing us, they're interveners. This is in their yard.
I think it's time to take a real good look at this stuff and not get pushed around. It's part of the money that's coming for the Montague City Road is coming, I think, out of federal, state. It's all our tax money.
Right.
It's all our money. These guys are here to exploit, right? All the money that they're going to spend, the big money they're going to spend on this is all backdated, right? The big money is going to come in 2033 and 34. As long as they don't have this contract signed and all sealed off by FERC, they're making money. They're investing in other places. Now, this big stuff, I mean, these are 50-year-old facilities.
Right.
When I hear stuff like, let me see, I didn't get to this, Summary of the key project figures. This is about Turners Falls. Consists of Here's the potential issues included in section 1.2 consist of a landslide of the rock slopes that blocks the intake channel. This is at Northfield. Rock blocks falling from the rock walls of the underground powerhouse, and a failure of the valve system and equalizer line on the turbine resulting in powerhouse flooding. This is Northfield Mountain. Is this thing safe to operate every day? Why isn't this public information, and why aren't we getting it, right? I mean, I got to thank you, Drew, because I've been sort of the embedded journalist
right.
At this time, but you've been great about sort of saying let's get the information to people. So the question is why? What's going on? Is this thing safe? And of course, who is doing the assessment on this? First Light picks its own people, right? They got turned down. Let me see. I got to do one more thing here. And they originally, damn safety. Let me see if I can get this.
No pressure.
This is just fun. Oh, yeah. So let me just read this to you. On June 12th, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission sent owner First Light Power a notice outlining a trio of troubling safety issues that I just read off to you, and gaps in the qualifications of their proposed inspection team. And then, let me see. And First Light, so First Light is asking for an extension of time because First Light couldn't originally attract qualified consultants for the comprehensive assessment because 4 had formally expressed interest, but just 1 provided an actual proposal. Yeah, once again, they gave them extra time to do this, right? But basically, based on the above issues and technical complexity of each project and features, the IC team appears to be lacking in expertise and experience in engineering, geology, or rock mechanics and mechanical systems. And this is what they originally put out to inspect their own thing. FERC doesn't even do the inspection. They get people to do their own inspection.
That sounds like regulatory capture.
Doesn't it sound like regulatory? I got to write that down, Drew. So they eventually got some new people, and they waved these new people through. But one of the things that the FERC letter back to them says, we'll accept these people. And by the way, FERC is currently not enforcing its rule of having 10 years of experience in doing these inspections. So FERC is sort of signaling, no big deal. So on and on we go, Drew. Right now, the river should be doing great, right? We're getting up to our two-minute warning, right? But there's scaffolding on both sides of the Turners Falls Dam, right? So there's no water entering the river. I encourage people to go take a walk at Northfield before they close the trails. They don't really want people to know that they're not doing a damn thing. We're saving 34% of the natural gas that just goes up in smoke. So we're doing better on that end. But there's no water going into the river, right? There is nothing because there's work going on Route 2 below the gill side of the dam. There's work going on 4 of the bascule gates because they have scaffolding there because of this is very small potatoes, but the leaks that have been going on there, they can't release water into the river. And there is a giant, there's that buoy net with all sorts of detritus sitting next to it, and they would love to shoot that out the gill side of the dam under those Tainer gates, but they can't do it because the state is spending millions of dollars to have to build up the collapsed bank that they caused. Drew, ain't it great?
Well, temporarily this is great, but the thing is we have an issue that has to be dealt with long term, and people need to take action. However, we've also come to the end of the program again, Karl. It flies by.
We'll have to just do another.
We will do more because this issue is not going away. But it's so frustrating because it seems to me clear that Northfield Mountain should not be operated the way that it is. The license should not be renewed. And it seems like the people that are in positions of power and knowledge are not acting on behalf of the public interest.
The public interest. Drew, you can go to FERC.gov, documents and filings, and if you want to see, I intervened back in early May. You can see my whole arguments for not relicensing. I believe it's also the Connecticut River Defenders put it up on their website. They've been the people that been most active in pushing these issues out into the public eye. But I just encourage the public. get involved somehow, you know?
It's our river.
It certainly is.
Belongs to all of us. Karl,
Drew?
always a pleasure.
As always.
We'll have you on again because this story, it keeps
It's a
going.
huge New England story that's it's sort of, they've dropped the ball in a lot of media outlets, I gotta say, but thank you for being
Well,
here. to do this.
I'm happy to help out, and I'm very happy that you were able to join us. I'm Drew Hutchison. You've been tuned to Local Bias. Enjoy.